The V85 manual is pretty thick and most of us don't have time to read it cover to cover. Also, in my opinion, the way it's laid out is a little bit confusing, so it's very possible that you missed more than the 5 things that we covered in the last video. As one of our viewers pointed out, thanks Nathaniel, the manual says that in the refueling section to use E10 RON 95. But what does that mean? Well, there are many great videos out there on fueling and octane, and I try to link them in the show notes, but in a nutshell, this is how I understand it. RON, or Research Octane Number, is used in Europe and most of the world. There's another standard called MON, M-O-N, which is Motor Octane Number, and that's got a lot more complexity to how they figured that number out. And in the United States, we use the AKI, which is the Anti-Knock Index, which is an average of the RON and the MON. So it's RON plus MON divided by 2. Understanding that I'm oversimplifying this, the higher the octane, the more resistant the fuel is to detonation, which causes knock. And most modern engines run on various minimum octane. So your bike or your car is designed to run on a lower octane. That's fine. Adding more octane really won't do anything but cost you more money. But running octane lower than recommended can cause detonation that will take its toll on your engine's cylinder head. And now I'm not a scientist or a trained mechanic, so hopefully I'm explaining this correctly, but feel free to let me know in the comments. The bottom line is that you should use the minimum octane that your manual specifies. And for this bike, that's 95 RON. Now in the United States, you would see this as 91 AKI. As for ethanol, the manual specifies a E10, which is pretty much the standard here in the United States where I live. This means that 10% of the gas is plant-based ethanol. And while you may see E15, 15% ethanol, and E85, which is flex fuel, and E85 contains a mix of 51 to 83% of ethanol and unleaded gas. These should never be used in your Guzzi. And while we're on the subject of fuel, I've been using non-ethanol fuel in my bike since I got it. But after going down this rabbit hole and researching fuel and octane and such, I realized that the octane of the non-ethanol gas was only 85. So I'm going back to E10, 91 octane or higher. We have 93 in some places here. You can see that in the video. And after the first tank I did this week, it really seemed like it ran better. Now, I don't know if that's psychological or if it's really running better, but it's what the manual says, so let's go with that. Now, this may be a little controversial, but the manual makes mention of not using a cell phone while fueling. While the manual doesn't explicitly say that using a cell phone while fueling causes a fire, it does say this, quote, "During refueling, avoid the use of electric devices and/or mobile phones because fuel vapors may cause damage to objects and/or personal injuries." Now, this could be just a vague statement that they put there by lawyers, but and since my phone has been mounted like 4 inches from my tank almost every time I've ever fueled, I don't know. I did a little digging, though. I wanted to find out if there was any truth to this. Turns out that a properly working cell phone has very little chance of igniting the vapors of a gas tank. Bob Rinkus of the Petroleum Equipment Institute that said there's no evidence of a fire started by a cell phone at a gas pump. Now, this was in 2003, so things may have changed, and I have seen a few YouTube videos that claim someone's cell phone started a fire, but I've also heard of cell phones blowing up in people's pockets, so I guess you have to make your own decision on that one, but most of the science says it's not likely to happen. You want to be sure that you're grounded before you fuel. Also, it goes without saying that smoking while fueling can ignite your tank and ruin your day, so it's best to get off the bike and fuel just in case something goes wrong. The lights on this bike are pretty bright, but there are 2 sets of controls, one on the right hand grip that controls the mode, and one on the left hand grip that controls the high beam, low beam, and flash to pass functions for each mode. Now, the drawing in the manual you would expect to be from the rider's perspective, but it appears as if they've drawn it as they were standing out in front of the bike. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just looking at it funny, but you let me know what you think. The first thing you need to know about all this stuff that we're going to talk about is that it only applies if your engine is running. Otherwise, you just get the Guzzi Eagle light, which is one of the coolest things I think about this bike. But otherwise, it's a daytime running light. The flash to pass paddle works in all modes. So no matter what mode you're in, you can use it. Okay, once the engine is on, here's how it works. Moving the switch to the top position, position 3 in the manual, on your right-hand side activates the high beam, low beam. And if you have fog lights, it'll turn them on also. You control the high beam, low beam, and flash to pass on your left-hand switch. Now moving the switch to the center position, position 2 in the manual, gives you everything position 3 has except the fog lights. Now moving the switch to the bottom position, position 1 in the manual, you have only daytime running lights. High and low beam is disabled on the left switch. Only flash to pass will work there. So the flash to pass feature allows you to have a poor man's modulated bulb. You can manually blink the lights and get others' attention. Here's some graphics I put together that will give a little more detailed look at the 9 different combinations and what they do. I thought this might be a little easier to digest than the sketches in the book. My absolute favorite features of this bike is the heated grips. I ride year round and it gets a little cold here in the winter time, and even on days when it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, a little heat on the hands takes the edge off. And however, when I got this bike, I really didn't understand how it worked. One of the things that was a bit different than many heated grips is they come on at the lowest setting on this bike, and each click makes them warmer. On a lot of bikes, they start at the top, at the hottest setting, and then each click makes them a little cooler. There is an icon of a hand grip on the dash that tells you what level the heated grips are on. Each level adds a line to the hand grip icon until there are 3. To turn them on, just press the button once. You'll notice 1 line on the hand grip icon. This is the lowest setting. Push it quickly again, and you'll see another line appear, making 2 lines on the hand grip icon. This is the middle setting. And of course, pressing a 3rd time will give you 3 lines on the hand grip icon in the highest setting, which I find very adequate. If you press the button a 4th time, the heated grips deactivates, and there are no lines on the hand grip icon. I actually like starting at the lowest setting, and then as I ride, increasing it as I need to, but to each his or her own. I had a viewer ask me how to reset this. I went down a rabbit hole researching this, and afraid I don't have good news. The only way to reset this, as far as I can tell, is through a diagnostic tool. You either need to take it to the Moto Guzzi dealer, or if you are a hardcore do-it-yourselfer, you can use a diagnostic tool and software like Guzzi Diag and do it yourself. Disclaimer now, I've never used this software, so try it at your own risk. It was developed by an enthusiast, as I understand it, and a Google search will get you to the site. Again, not recommending you hack into your bike's computer, but if you do, let us know how it worked out.